The state of Iowa is home to a conservation area known as Maquoketa Cave State Park. This park is home to more caves than any other state park in Iowa, and a trail system links the caves, cave formations, and overlooks together to create a unique hiking experience for visitors. Most of the caves in the area are accessible by anyone, but there are a few caves recommended for advanced cavers only. Many of these limestone caves once had large stalactites hanging from the ceiling and stalagmites rising from the floor. However, over the years, souvenir robbers have slowly removed all of the natural formations. One day, a group of friends was visiting the Maquoketa Caves, and they decided to explore a small cave that branched off from one of the larger ones. The entrance to this cave was a narrow opening blocked by a few cobwebs and then a 15-meter belly crawl. The most experienced of the group goes first, crawls fairly quickly through the opening, and comes out into a little domed room about 1.5 meters tall and about 4 meters across. As he was waiting for the others to crawl through, he was looking around and just examining the cave when he looked up and was horrified. He would later say that despite not being afraid of spiders, the sheer volume of them caught him off guard and kind of freaked him out. It looked as though there were 1,500 big spiders hanging from the ceiling in this little room with egg sacs all around them. He called to his friends, told them about the spiders, and warned them not to stand up when they got in the room. The others, a little warier of spiders than he was, started asking a bunch of questions about them as they crawled, like how big are they, what color are they? Are they furry? And he responded by saying, yeah, they're not that big. They kind of look like black widows, but they're not. They're the wrong color. They're brown, and the legs look a little lighter than the body. One of his two friends spotted and said, really? Do they have a small pattern on their back, sort of like a violin? He answered back, huh? Yeah, they do, actually. While his friend finally makes it into the room, he looks up at the ceiling briefly and visibly shudders from all the spiders. Then he forces himself to take a closer look at one of the spiders. When he did, all the color in his face completely drained, and he screamed to the others, get out of the cave right now. They all jumped back into the opening and crawled as fast as they could. It had taken them about 20 minutes to get into the cave, and it only took them about 3 minutes to get all the way back out. 5. When they finally got out, the two others looked at the friend who screamed to get out, confused. He would go on to say that those were brown recluse spiders, some of the most poisonous spiders in all of North America. The room they had crawled into was a brown recluse lair. If you get bitten by a brown recluse, you go through excruciating pain for days, and your skin can become necrotic. After that incident, they would never enter another cave with cobwebs covering the entrance again. Lake Nyos is a crater lake in the northwest region of the country of Cameroon. A crater lake is a lake that has formed in the crater of where a volcanic eruption occurred. At some point after the eruption, there will be a literal crater in the ground from where the contents of the eruption were ejected into the atmosphere. This then fills with water, either from rain or from water under the surface of the earth, to form a lake. On August 21, 1986, the normally blue water in the lake turned a deep red, and then a 100-foot column of water and foam formed at the surface of the lake. This triggered a wave of at least 25 meters that swept the shore on one side of the lake, knocking down trees and causing the water level in the lake to drop by about a meter. The reason that the water had turned red is that some unknown event caused iron-rich water from deep in the lake to rise to the surface, causing it to oxidize when coming into contact with the oxygen from the air. At the same time, over 100,000 tons of carbon dioxide gas was released from the water at nearly 100 kilometers an hour. In addition, carbon dioxide is about 1.5 times heavier than air, so it doesn't just float away, it'll actually descend along the ground and displace the lighter air around it as it moves. A few kilometers away from the lake, in a village named Sabum, a man named Joseph McQueen was inside his home, going about his day when he began to smell something terrible. Then he heard his daughter, sleeping nearby, begin to snore loudly and abnormally. He went to go over to her to say something, but then he realized he couldn't speak. A second after that, he collapsed on the ground and went unconscious. Joseph woke up hours later at around 4:30 p.m. and found that his clothes were covered in a red honey-like substance and he had sores all over his body. He then went to wake up his daughter, thinking she was still sleeping, but tragically she was dead. He tried to cry out, but no breath would come out. Joseph ran out of his house and began to check around the neighborhood, finding that everyone, all of his neighbors, were also dead. He would eventually come upon one friend whose family had died as well, and the two of them left the town and traveled to the hospital in the country's capital. Unbeknownst to Joseph, the carbon dioxide that had been released from Lake Nyos nearby had descended from the lake onto nearby villages and displaced all of the air, suffocating people and livestock within up to 25 kilometers from the lake. The carbon dioxide was also mixed with sulfur and hydrogen dioxide, explaining the smell, residue, and sores. In total, 1746 people were killed in what is known as a limnic eruption that scientists believe was caused by a landslide into Lake Nyos. The landslide then displaced and churned up the carbon dioxide-saturated deep water towards the surface of the lake. The pressure difference at the lake's surface caused all of the carbon dioxide to dissolve out of the water and create the deadly gas cloud that killed all of those people. Since the incident, degassing tubes have been inserted into Lake Nyos to maintain the carbon dioxide at safe levels. Hopefully, this will prevent any future tragedies. In the last years of the Soviet Union, a 29-year-old man named Vyacheslav worked as a prosecutor in Russia's Smolensk region. By his own admission, he used his position as a prosecutor to have power over the locales in the area he was living. Despite holding the position as a prosecutor and using this authority to manipulate the people around him, he was deeply bored and unsatisfied with the life he was living. One day, after finally succumbing to the overwhelming boredom and dissatisfaction, he grabbed a knife from the store he was in and began stabbing a bookkeeper to death. After killing the bookkeeper, he turned on the cashier of the store he was in and began stabbing her too. After she was dead, he stole the money from the cash register and left the store. He didn't actually need the money, but he would later say that he did need to feel something again. And that's why he killed those two people. Shortly after the murders, he was arrested and then sentenced to death by firing squad. On the day he was scheduled to be executed, a prison official came to his cell and told him his life would be spared because after the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia had decided to instate a moratorium on all executions. Vyacheslav was so relieved that he became devoutly religious from that day forward. However, despite not being executed, he would now be transferred to Russia's notorious prison number OE-256-5, known locally as Pyatak Prison, located in the Vologda region. Pyatak Prison is known as Russia's Alcatraz because it is just a small prison on the Ogneny Ostrov Island in White Lake. Similar to Alcatraz, this prison was created to hold Russia's most dangerous criminals, and so far, not a single prisoner has managed to escape from its walls. In the words of one of the guards, "If they dig, they hit water. If they swim, the guards will shoot them." In the summer, temperatures can reach 40 degrees, and the mosquitoes are atrocious. In the winter, the temperature will drop to -30, and the prison is surrounded by thousands of miles of snow drifts on either side. On top of that, the entire island is covered in a barbed wire fence. To make things worse, each inmate is held in a two-man room for 22.5 hours per day, 365 days of the year. In the first decade they spend at the prison, they are allowed just 2 visits per year. After that, they get a total of 4 visits, but by that time most prisoners have little to no contact with anyone outside of the prison because they're only allowed to receive 2 parcels per year, so they have next to no contact with the outside world. According to the prison psychologist, inmates will spend the first 9 months or so adapting to the new environment. After that, their personalities literally begin to deteriorate to the point of being psychologically destroyed. The single hour and a half the prisoners get to spend outside of their cell is in a small outdoor cage, just big enough to stand and pace back and forth. Once they return to their cell, their toilet is just a metal bucket and their bed is just a wooden plank. They also have limited access to other basic amenities like showers, which is a major contributor to the fact that half the inmates in the prison have tuberculosis. If a prisoner dies in the prison, they are taken to a small graveyard nearby and buried in the presence of 1 or 2 guards and no one else. Even worse, if prisoners misbehave, they are sent to special punishment cells, which are small, dark rooms where they are kept for 15 days. During this time, they aren't allowed books, and during the day, their bed has to be stowed away, so they either have to stand or sit on a tiny wooden perch just a few inches wide. Now, whatever your thoughts are on the crimes that these men have committed, the 193 inmates serving life sentences at Pyatak Prison are truly living in one of the scariest places on Earth. Hello everyone, and welcome to Life Explorers HQ. My name is Savvy, and I just wanted to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I also wanted to say hello to all of the new subscribers. The response in the last couple of days has honestly been pretty overwhelming, and some of the comments you guys have left have just been unbelievably nice. If you have any story suggestions, you can let me know down in the comments. And if you are new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. This is your Life Explorers HQ.